Good morning, guys. It is February 21st on a Friday, and I'm here on campus. Campus meaning USC, as you can tell by the title of this video. So, welcome. Hey guys, so initial thoughts. Because this is the first time I've been on campus since 2016. I walked in 2016, came back for homecoming in November. But last time I was here, I just explored the University Village because that was something I hadn't done yet. But it is so weird being back on campus. I'm glad I decided to film today on a Friday where it's less crowded. And it's Friday morning, so even less crowded. But it's just like, I equally feel like no time has passed, but also like I should not be here. I don't know, it is such a weird feeling. I'm feeling kind of sad, feeling pretty nostalgic, but also just like, yeah, definitely glad I'm not in classes anymore. But I'm gonna take you back to where it all began. So guys, back to where it all began. Which, if I'm being totally honest, I don't really know if I'm in the correct spot, because the first place I ever came here on USC's campus is around the Marshall School of Business. In 2010, my brother and my cousin enrolled in like this summer program where they came to learn about business and business administration, and they were incoming juniors at the time, so it made sense for resumes and such. And I didn't know anything about USC. I just knew that my aunt worked here and they had a good football team, but this is where it began, where I came on campus and I was like, I like it here, I like California, I want to stay. But again, never came back to this area. So I'll take you to what happens next. So, to make a long story short, I applied and I got in unsuspectingly. So I came to campus for orientation and I met Tommy Trojan. And then I was really excited. Thinking about it, I was really excited. I thought that hobnobbing with celebrities and famous people, and I thought that things were gonna change so exponentially. And they did, but not in the way that I was expecting. Speaking of admissions, guys, this is the school that I was admitted to. USC School for Communication and Journalism. The first building. And this is the grassy knoll that I am sitting on. Is this considered a grassy knoll? I don't really know. But I've spent so many times just sitting out here eating a Nature Valley bar. It's where I had my first incident with a squirrel, a campus squirrel. Anyone who's ever lived on a college campus knows that these squirrels are a different breed because they live off of what college students eat, and they're rabid and they don't care. I had a face-off. Literally, we squared up and people stared at me because he wanted my Nature Valley bar. He wasn't gonna get it and he lost that fight. Not sure if I won the war though. Annenberg was an amazing major. I mean, amazing school to have a major in. I studied communication specifically. It seemed broad enough that I could pursue different interests and like could do writing, could do broadcast, could do like corporate work. And I don't know, I met so many cool professors. I met some of the coolest professors I think I could ever meet in my life, both here and while studying abroad through the USC communication program in London. It was just, they had this real grasp on the real world. They were not afraid to talk about controversial topics and to make us think. Discussion sections were always so intense and honestly kind of heated at times. And because the communication school is so broad, the Annenberg school in general is so broad, you got people from all walks of life, a lot of people living that rich sorority life, a lot of guys with a sports media minor, like people like me and other black women that were trying to pursue things to get more representation. And it had a lot of things that you could declare emphasis with, and I feel like we had people from all walks of life, so a lot of our discussions really came from a true representation of different people in the world. And I feel like I didn't really grasp that until I left, because I realized I wasn't having those conversations or feeling comfortable enough to have those conversations about really anything related to pop culture or the news or politics or society, anything like that, like in my now workplace or back in Dallas compared to places liberal as Los Angeles. So it's things that I look back on and I'm like, I'm glad I had that opportunity, I had that agency, and I had a safe space to really explore that, because 18 to 21, 22 is just such a weird time, and it's such a formative time because you are technically an adult, but you know nothing, and you need to be surrounded by people that may, like, you know, of all different types of ways of thinking to really expand your mind and help you figure out sort of what your voice is. And I really loved Annenberg for that. I feel like everything about it was amazing. I even worked here as a work study student as part of my financial aid, and it was so cool because that's where I also met some really cool people, some of the closest people. I mean, I met one of my best friends working in that front office, and I got to meet more black students working in that office because we all had work study. Well, the people I met, we all had work study, and it was just really cool because it felt like a family. I got close with the student advisors. I was able to like iron out my plan a lot easier, figure out alternatives for study abroad, and really get all the information I needed to figure out what I wanted to do. I'm just so grateful. I really, really am. And I really like Annenberg. And it's so funny because, you know, the USC admission scandal was a surprise to absolutely no one on this campus, which is a sad story in itself. I'm, of course, not part of that group that got to have that privilege, but it's just really interesting to me that someone like me and people that are less fortunate than I am can walk on the same campus as people that have everything handed to them. And I think that happens obviously on every college campus, but it was just sort of those things that you open your eyes to very early on, which is why I said freshman year was just so interesting and difficult to navigate, because I realized a lot of people didn't think like me. I realized that a lot of people didn't have the same values as me, and that a lot of people were handed things based on their privilege, and I had to learn it very fast, and that was part of the learning curve. But I needed that. I was fortunate for that, and it molded me into the person that I am today. If we're talking about what other major I did, I minored in music industry. I thought I was gonna minor in Spanish, and definitely should have, but music industry was really cool. I'm gonna go show you that. I'm gonna show you Thornton School of Music. I'm at the Thornton School of Music. Thornton was such a cool school. Being a music industry minor was really awesome because I feel like I got to see a lot of different things, and I got to learn so much about the music industry that to me is still very invaluable information. I feel like I retained that a lot more than the communication stuff, probably because the communication stuff was like more common sense, whereas the music industry stuff is just very unique to the industry. Unfortunately, I realized that I didn't want to work in the music industry after learning kind of like the hurdles people go through, especially in today's time with unpaid internships and just having to work like basically in the mailroom until a position opens and still getting underpaid, which is a lot of professions actually in the entertainment industry, which further contributed to me not really knowing what I want to do in the long run. But it was still such interesting stuff. It was a minor that allowed me to put on a real concert, like my final project for my final class. My best friend Cynthia and I and 2 other group members, we had to put on a live concert for profit, and we hired a venue. Like, I arranged the artists, we made a profit, we had an attempted robbery, which was terrifying because some guy stole my teammates' purse in the middle of the show. I ran after them like an idiot and into an alley, and then I was like, wait, I might die. Ran back. Security that we hired found this person. Turns out the venue owner knew the guy and he lives in the neighborhood, and they didn't tell him that. Like, they asked us if we wanted to press charges. The girl didn't because she had everything in the purse, including her cards, her keys, her money, and her phone. So, but it was just like really scary and weird, and we were also like, oh my god, is this real life? And this is what happens at real music venues. It was cool. I learned so much. I learned about safety in that class particularly, but also in the minor. And I don't know, I feel like I learned a lot more about the music industry, and I also got to widen my music range, which I already thought was wide, but it was really cool. I just realized that's not what I wanted to do, and I definitely should have stuck with Spanish. I have a special place in my heart for Thornton because it was a really cool minor to have. I don't know how much I can really use it, but it's cool to have that knowledge, it's cool to have those resources, it's cool to have those textbooks. So, but let me show you guys where I lived. Walking in the bike lane, because as a former biker, that was my biggest pet peeve. So now I am participating in such anarchy. Pro tip, guys, the anarchy was not worth it. I felt my life flash before my eyes because a biker came by and I could not hear them. It's not worth it. Don't do it, kids. Do not walk in the bike lane. residential dorm, and also referred to as Parkside Darkside because when you're a freshman, it seems so far away from everything that's going on in campus. Walking it now and walking it literally the next year, I realized this campus is not huge, but it just felt like everything was so far away, especially compared to the other dorms that were centralized out in the quad, McCarthy Quad, which I'll take you guys to soon. Honestly, I picked it because I'm from Texas. I'm just used to having a lot of space. I didn't want a traditional old dorm that's been here since the 1800s, and everything stacked on top of each other is really old. So I opted to live here, which was an 8-person suite, 2 people to a room, and like 2 bathrooms. And it was great. It wasn't a traditional way to have your first college living experience, but it was amazing. And I think that Parkside is really cool because it's really quiet over here. And I really enjoyed going for walks around here. So Parkside, I appreciated you. Not to mention, this is the scene of the crime where my first bike was ever stolen. It's a sad day. It was raining that day. I was late for class. My bike was stolen. The first of many bikes to be stolen, unfortunately. Now, as a freshman here at USC, and I can only imagine now, but back then, there's tons of stuff to do. There's always stuff going on. As a freshman, it seemed like the world was your oyster, and it seemed like this is such a unique experience, and honestly, like I said, I can't imagine what it's like now. But as a freshman then, back in 2012, I realized that something was just a little bit off about the experience. I realized that I was feeling a lot more depressed than I thought that other students were feeling, and maybe they were. But my particular issue was that when I was in my former school, I lived in a bubble. And I've talked about this on my channel more than once. I went to a school from 3rd to 12th grade. I was really excited about the prospect of meeting new people and creating this huge friend group, this huge network, I know, professional or social. And that's not what happened. I struggled to make friends. As a freshman, I thought everyone wanted to be friends. And I realized I hadn't had to learn how to make friends since the 3rd grade. So it was a really tough learning curve for me that I don't think anyone could have prepared me for, even if they tried. I loved being here. I couldn't wait for my friends to visit me here. I couldn't wait to tell people that I went to USC and the things I was going to, the concerts, all the concerts I was going to, and the events and like the random stuff in LA, all the touristy stuff. I mean, I was doing it all with such a great group of people. Brad included, from the video that you guys are gonna see next week. Or no, sorry, the video you guys would have seen last week. I don't know, I started to struggle about halfway through freshman year, and it got a little worse. But for now, I'll tell you where I found some solitude. Alright guys, the way to close out freshman year, and I'm not going to go into as much depth with every year because eventually I moved off campus, so I can't show you everything. But this is where I would come. Here at Louis St. Marie's track and field. And I love this place. This is the place where I first saw the USC marching band perform when I came for freshman orientation. And I thought I wanted to join the band. Not to play, but I wanted to be one of the flag twirlers. And then I realized that's a lot of commitment for my first year. My first year was really, really focused on trying to get my studies together and trying to make sure that that worked. And that was also like a catalyst for a lot of things because I chose to prioritize my studies over like clubs and organizations, which further meant that I wasn't meeting more people. And so I would just come here if the band was practicing in the fall. And right now, even as I'm filming this, the track team is practicing. So it's just cool to kind of come out here and like think. And sometimes I come out here and run as well. But it's just a really quiet place, weirdly enough, because it's so big. And it's pretty comfortable because I enjoy a track. I used to run track in high school, and this is where I would really contemplate so many things. There were definitely more dark days than there were good days, and it was just really daunting to figure it out, even though I wasn't really alone. Like some people really travel really far places with no family around. I had my aunt here, so whenever I was feeling down, I'd just go and be with her, stay at her apartment for a weekend. But it was, the learning curve on a social front was extremely steep, and I'm just glad that I persevered and that I stuck through it and that I went all the way through, because at one point in the next year I thought thought I wasn't gonna make it. I really did. So I really thank this track for bringing me such happiness so many days, or at least peace of mind, some quiet time, some time to sit out in the sun or sit out on like a cloudy day and just feel the breeze. Even now, I'm feeling so much more comfortable and feeling less like anxious about filming around people. But yeah, this clip's a lot longer than it needs to be. Let's go on to the next spot. A second place of solitude for me, which really came from my sophomore year, was this parking lot right here. Doesn't look like much, does it? It's a parking lot. But since I don't really like to talk about sophomore year as a whole anyway, because it was such a dark year for me where I really thought that I was gonna leave this school and just start over, I just felt so defeated. I went to counseling, figured out that I was depressed, and it was a lot. But this parking lot is where I had my dance team practices. One of the places I had my dance team practices. This was a primary one we used to practice for our competition, where I was in a lead role for it, and it was just, it saved me. I've written this before on my blog where I talked about 10 things that I reviewed in the 2010s, which is linked down below, as always. But this place really saved me. The people on that team really saved me. And I felt like I was part of something. I'd made real friends. And so this little tiny parking lot between Grace Ford Salvatore Hall and the engineering quad, which is another place where we practiced, are just very near and dear to my heart and very special. And like I said, a place of solitude when things got really rough and I started realizing college is teaching me more about myself than what I thought I was gonna get on an academic standpoint. And for that, I'll always be grateful. So on to, I guess I'll take you guys finally to the quad, or unless I find something along the way. Y'all, our film school is so bougie, it's disgusting. I mean, as you guys saw in that clip, it is the Steven Spielberg building and the George Lucas building. I mean, just too much money, right? Total side note, guys, this is so mean to say. I know karma's gonna get me for this, but like, walking around campus and seeing what people are wearing, like, I know it's Friday morning and people were probably raging last night, but I was definitely one of the best dressed on this campus. Everyone looks like, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know, it just looks a mess. And I know there are days I looked a mess, but like there are certain things I just could not bring myself to, which was like wearing sweatpants to class. And I get it. School, you're here to learn, you're stressed, like a lot's going on. It's not a fashion show, I get it. But I paid too much money to come to this school and went into too much debt to come out looking like I don't have any home training. I know karma's gonna get me for saying that. I shouldn't say people dress ugly. I shouldn't say that. I don't know people's circumstances. I don't know their financial situations. I should stop. I thought I'd stop and give you guys some fun facts in USC history. This building behind me, this ball at the top, that's the von Kleinsmith Center. Von Kleinsmith? Yes. Von Kleinsmith was actually a eugenicist. And he was on our board, or like was almost president or something like that. I don't know, but his name's all over the campus. He actually donated 2 trees that are like those deep-rooted type Whomping Willow type trees over in our student center, the Ronald Tudor Campus Center, and they can't uproot him after finding out that he like was all on board for eugenics, because they're so deeply rooted that it would completely destroy the infrastructure of everything in that area. So, fun fact. Live from McCarthy Quad. It doesn't look that impressive because it just looks like one big lawn and then like an X in the middle, but we really used to do so many things in this quad. I mean, I'm sure like any other quad on a college campus, you would just know that it was famous for tailgating, and for us, it was also where we held our concerts, or still hold as far as I know. I can't imagine there's another place where you can hold concerts here, but we had a USC Conquest, which is our biggest concert. We have a beginning of the year concert, USC Conquest, and then, name is escaping me, but I'm gonna put it on the screen. We always have one in the spring, and this is where we would host it. We would just start off everything, set up a stage over here to my left, and it would be just like the craziest concert ever. Conquest was always my favorite, or they'd have a stage back there, but Conquest was always my favorite because it was around the time, the whole point of it and why it's called Conquest is because it was the famous USC versus UCLA game. That is our top rival, and in preparation for that and like campus activities happening for that, we had a big concert where we always had a big performer. We had Childish Gambino, we've had Miguel. Those are the two ones that I can remember the best. I think the third year I just didn't go. Like I don't know what was going on. I just didn't go. But the quad is great. It is in between Levy Library and behind the camera is Doheny Library. Two places I never spent any time because I personally just can't study in a library. But yeah, this is just where a lot of people spend time, and like I said, it is the central point of campus between over here to, you can't see it, but back here, this little building we're at here, and stuff to my left, your right, are more dorms, the more traditional dorms that were like the oldest dorms, and so this is where a lot of people would just congregate, and the quad is beautiful. It's a nice place to walk through, so let's go on to whatever else I have to show you. Guys, the USC Village is equally the most beautiful and the most awful thing that has happened to the USC campus. When I was here, we had the former USC Village, which was where they hosted where they created it for the 1980 Olympics. And it was really run down, and it was super ugly, and it was totally old, but it had everything I needed. It had a bike shop, it had a Starbucks, it had a frozen yogurt place, it had Denny's, it had a Wendy's, it had a bank, it had a grocery store. I mean, it had everything. And it's not to say this new village doesn't have it, but it does, but only, again, for the elite. Like, they completely displaced the people who live in this neighborhood to build this village. I mean, they just tore down blocks and blocks where people were coming to this local grocery store, and like, of course, it's low income Black and Hispanic population, and they were all just pushed out to feed our construction. And now we have a village where the freshman student body lives, and they have everything handed to them. Like, when I say everything, I mean everything, guys. I mean, they have an Amazon delivery pickup, they have a Trader Joe's, they have a Target, they have every single like restaurant you can think of. Like, they actually do not have to leave here. They have a credit union. You do not have to leave here, honestly, to do anything except go to class. And to me, I think that is a very dangerous thing, because it's, like I said, freshman year, being 18 is such a vital part of the growing and living experience, where you really learn to do things on your own. And I feel like, also too, they have like a bike rack station where like you put the bike in, and there's like a I don't know how to, conveyor belt that takes it up for you. Like, I mean, I would think that it doesn't teach anything about independence. It makes people believe that this is what the real world is like. It almost literally creates a bubble for these students, and I think that can be extremely dangerous. Of course, it's beautiful. Like I said, like, you can want for nothing here. They have shopping, they have an Abercrombie, they have a bar. I mean, multiple bars. But I don't know. I can't help but see this village, know what it was before and what it served for the community as being this affordable like hub for things. Because there were other things besides like places to eat. I mean, there were things that the community could really come here and get. I can't help but look at this village and think about what it was and what was here before, and think about that's what we displaced to give people more access than they already have. Like, we have everything on campus, we have everything surrounding campus. This was not necessary, but I mean, attracting new students, right? This is where I lived sophomore year, which honestly, if I'm 100% honest, I don't remember if it's Troy East or Troy Hall. I want to say it's Troy East. I'm not entirely sure. But right behind me is also the second scene of the crime, where my bike was stolen every Wednesday at the exact same time, put in a new location for me to find it. To this day, have no idea how they managed to do that. I had a U-lock. I don't know how they managed to unlock and move it every single Wednesday. One morning, I literally screamed out, "Whoever is taking my bike, stop!" And it stopped after that point. So who knows who was borrowing my bike? I don't know, but it was, again, the first of many times my bike was stolen. And eventually, I just started moving my bike to different places and then picking it up in a different way, like so that people didn't start memorizing my patterns. But yeah, Troy East, Troy Hall, one of those two, wasn't very glamorous. So if anyone is wondering, did you like USC? Would you have done it again? Should I go to USC? If you're someone who is currently in that stage of your life, I did like USC. I had a great time here. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about other people. I just feel like putting this video out, I feel like there are certain experiences that are important to share to inform people so that they are not as blindsided or as like culture shocked as people like me. I think there are certain things that are necessary to building character and building growth, and like I've said before, everything's about perspective. So there are going to be things that you can't anticipate, things that are going to be totally different. It's also 5 years later since I was last year, so much has changed and happened in 5 years. So I can't protect anyone from anything, but I thought it necessary to at least give you guys a full experience of how I felt, especially freshman year, because of such a formative year and a year where I spent the most time on campus. Junior year, half of it I was in London, and the other half I was living off campus, and I just felt like my life on campus was strictly school at that point. Like my life outside of campus became my life in LA, which is its own video in itself. But USC is a great school. They have recently announced that they are now offering free tuition to students whose total combined household income is below $80,000, which is awesome. I want to believe it's a genuine initiative to make change and to create the future that we want for our kids and for even the generations now. I don't fully trust USC, honestly, to do that without any sort of like benefit to them. But, you know, I'm gonna hope for the best because that's what people deserve. And I hope that we continue down a path that really just caters to the full student body and not just a select few. So yes, come to USC if you can afford it, if it's in your line of path or whatever, if it's your dream school. Try to make that happen for yourself. I would do it again. I would honestly do it all over again because what California did for me, what USC did for me is invaluable. It's unlike anything else. I'm grateful for it. And even in the hardest times, even in times where I felt like I didn't belong, like I wanted to leave, it's part of who I am, it's part of my story, and it helped me to form the kind of way of thinking and the way that I view life. So we're gonna close this out where we began. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I can sit here and criticize all the things that are wrong with elitist and like overfunded universities all day long, but I learned how to grow out of it, and I'm fortunate for my experiences here. No matter what goes on and what things are wrong, because nothing in life is perfect, what things are wrong with this institution, it's a part of who I am and it's a part of my story. And the phrases "we are SC," "fight on forever," "forever a Trojan," like that is always gonna ring true. It's always gonna be very special, and it's always gonna be a shared experience that I have with such beautiful, amazing people who are my closest friends to this day, some of my best friends I've ever met in my life. I cannot deny that USC is a part of me, and coming here 5 years later, I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I was able to take you guys along with me and show you this very deep part of myself. I could easily go on and on and on, but I didn't want to turn this video into something that was just about how sad I was my first 2 years of school, because I definitely blossomed out of it. Like I said, my life turned into something different once I moved off campus and started doing things off campus and really just exploring LA. And I turned myself out of that mindset that my life is stuck between the walls of campus. So I'm just glad that I got to show you guys my alma mater. Wow, almost couldn't say that. Did I graduate from here? And I hope that you enjoyed this inside look from my perspective of my 4 years, or I guess 3.5 years, or I guess 3, because half of those 3.5 years I was in London. But you know, overall, just my experience here. And as always, if anyone has any questions, please let me know because I will be happy to answer them. Anyway, again, for the 3rd time, hope you enjoyed, hope you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye!